The hail came in on a frequency Earth hadn't used in 7,000 years. I was 3 levels below the Kareth plains when my board lit up, the deep channel receiver, the one we kept calibrated not because we expected to need it, but because we always expected to need it. I set down my mug, pulled on my headset, and listened to a voice speaking Solvith administrative standard, the language of an authority that had officially ceased to exist as far as our planet was concerned. Unregistered surface body, Solvith Bureau of Continuance Enforcement Vessel Ardent Necessity Hailing. Please confirm. This site is logged as uninhabited stellar event remnant, designation null record 7. Respond if capable. I press the transmit key. Ardent Necessity, this is Chief Archivist Davin Rel, Undercroft Complex, Earth, formerly null record 7, designation retired under independent restoration filing 6,400 years ago. We're quite inhabited. Come ahead. There was a long pause. I imagine they ran the name through their registry and found nothing. That was expected. The Bureau had been thorough once. They'd burned us out of every record they controlled, and for the first 3 centuries after the scorching, they probably believed it had worked. The Ardent Necessity entered low orbit 17 minutes later. A single shuttle came down at coordinates I provided, a flat landing field on the plains, where the scorching's glass had been broken up and cleared before my grandfather's grandfather was born. 3 figures stepped out into the afternoon sunlight. Their lead representative was Continuance Assessor Marith Sorval, Bureau rank insignia on both shoulders, a narrow, 4-limbed species with pale chitin plating and eyes that moved independently of each other, each tracking a different quadrant of the horizon. 2 enforcement aides flanked her. All 3 of them stood very still, looking at the sky. I let them look. There was a great deal to see. The new city of Kara Thunder had its upper towers visible from the landing field. 20 kilometers east, kilometer-tall spires of pressure-formed composite, catching the late sun. 3 Earth continuance vessels were parked in equatorial orbit, their hulls catching the light. From the surface they looked like bright, slow stars, but each was 400 meters long and armed to the degree that the Bureau's 11-hull enforcement fleet would have needed to think very carefully before making any move they couldn't take back. I had been told, quietly, by people above my pay grade, that 17 additional vessels were waiting beyond the lunar threshold. We hadn't mentioned those. Assessor Sorval recovered her composure before her aides did. She turned to me with both eyes converging, a Solvith gesture of focused attention, and said, in accented but functional standard, "You claim restoration filing. This site has no standing in Bureau records." "That's the heart of it," I said. "Come inside." The Undercroft's main entrance looks, from the surface, like nothing at all. A pressure door set into the base of a low ridge, unmarked. The Bureau had never found it. They hadn't looked particularly hard, because they'd been confident the scorching had finished anything below as thoroughly as it had finished anything above. Confidence of that kind tends to save you a great deal of effort right up until it doesn't. We took the lift down 4 levels to the reading gallery. I watched Sorval's eyes as the doors opened. The gallery runs 600 meters in length, its shelves rising 40 meters to a vaulted ceiling, every linear meter of rack occupied by index storage cores. The environmental controls keep it at a steady 4 degrees, cold enough that the oldest cores, the ones we'd packed and carried underground in the first years before the scorching, had lost nothing. "How old?" Sorval said. It wasn't quite a question. "The collection spans 11,000 years, I said. The oldest materials predate the Bureau's first contact with Earth by about 2 millennia. The most recent entries are from this morning." I let her walk, her aides followed, I followed them. I had done this tour 14 times in my career, for delegations from 6 different galactic authorities. It never got old. There is a specific moment it always arrived, and I had learned to watch for it. Sorval found it about a third of the way down the gallery, where the indexing system shifts from human-origin materials to recovered external documentation. The rack labels are in Bureau Administrative Standard there, the same language she had hailed us in. She stopped. "These are Bureau files," she said. "Copies," I said. "The originals will still be in your deep archive, assuming you maintain one. We've preserved our set for 6,800 years. Cross-reference integrity has been independently verified 4 times." She reached out with one chitin-plated hand and touched a rack without pulling anything from it. The gesture reminded me of someone touching a headstone. "What is in them?" she said. "The operational record of the scorching," I said. "Authorization chain, all 17 signatory stamps, the cost accounting, the stellar event procurement contracts, the Bureau internal communications regarding the decision, and the post-event confirmation reports. The confirmation reports," I added, "are particularly interesting. They concluded that Earth had been successfully nullified. Your assessors at the time were very confident." Both of Sorval's eyes converged on me again. I held her gaze. "How," she said, "was a fair question. The Bureau had scrubbed Earth from every galactic network they administered. They had burned the surface. They had redirected the stellar event with enough precision that survival had been, from their calculations, essentially impossible. What they had not accounted for was the 4-year warning window between their decision and their execution, an internal communications failure on their end, a recovery of those communications by a human signals analyst named Pell Davin on ours. The analyst's name was on a plaque by the Undercroft entrance. His great-great-grandchildren had administered this archive. I had been one of them. "We went underground before the scorching reached full effect," I said. "The deepest shafts were below the thermal penetration threshold. We lost a great deal. We kept more than the Bureau expected." "The Bureau had no record of subterranean infrastructure of that scale," Sorval said. "No," I said, "you didn't. We built it quickly and we were motivated." I took her further down the gallery, to the section that contained the materials we had recovered from the Bureau's own network in the years after the scorching, intercepted transmissions, recovered from the deep channel frequencies the Bureau had used and considered secure, patiently gathered and decoded over the first 4 centuries of our reconstruction. It had taken a long time. Earth had been patient. We had always been patient, underground in the dark, learning the architecture of the system that had tried to erase us, and finding in that architecture the tools to outlast it. "Assessor," I said, "you came here to file a confirmation of non-habitation. I understand that. The Bureau has maintained null record 7 on its open cases for 7,000 years, and a closed case is a tidy thing." I walked her to the end of the gallery, where a single reading station stood with a document already loaded. "We'd like to help you close it." She looked at the screen. The document was Earth's formal petition to the Galactic Concordance, the Bureau's oversight body, which the Bureau had spent considerable energy ensuring Earth could never reach, back when Earth had no ships and no standing and no record of existence. We had ships now. We had standing. We had, more usefully, 7,000 years of meticulously preserved records demonstrating exactly what had been done to us, and by whom, documented in the Bureau's own language, signed with the Bureau's own seals, stored in a complex the Bureau had never found beneath a planet the Bureau had written off. "The petition has already been transmitted," I said. "The concordance received it 46 days ago. This copy is for your records." Sorval did not move for a long time. Through the gallery's environmental hum I could hear, very faintly, the distant tone of the surface monitoring array, the same array that was currently tracking the Ardent Necessity in orbit, and the 17 vessels beyond the lunar threshold and every other object within 2 light hours of Earth. It was a quiet sound. It had been running continuously for 4,000 years. We had never turned it off because we had never trusted that we wouldn't need it, and we had been right. "The concordance will take time," Sorval said finally. "Yes," I said, We're familiar with waiting. She left with the document copy and her two silent aides, back up through the undercroft, back out through the pressure door into the afternoon light. I stood in the gallery and listened to the environmental systems run and thought about a signals analyst named Pell Davin who had pulled a burst transmission out of a corrupted channel 4 years before the sky burned, and had understood what it meant, and had not stopped moving until the shafts were deep enough. The ardent necessity broke orbit 6 hours later. Our tracking array logged the departure and noted the heading. The 17 vessels beyond the lunar threshold held position until the Bureau ship passed out of the system, then stood down in good order. The gallery was quiet. It was always quiet down here. 7,000 years of patience, stacked floor to ceiling, waiting for exactly this. We had kept everything. That had always been the plan.